Welcome to 3 Minutes with Matt Lambeau. I am glad you're here. In this podcast, we examine today's trending topics while isolating common sense truth from a heightened human consciousness perspective. Our mission is to help educate the next generation with a simplified, more beneficial understanding of the world around them. If you like what you hear, please forward the podcast to someone who could benefit from its wisdom and consider contributing to our cause, which is to get this common sense wisdom into the minds of the next generation so they might save themselves from this planet's shit show. But that's for another day. Here we go. Episode number 4, Understanding the Israeli-Palestinian War in the Middle East. Now, this one runs a tad longer than 3 minutes, but it should be worth it. Let's go. To be at war with your closest neighbor for centuries seems a bit ridiculous, right? If not, it's certainly a bad reflection on humanity. So why are they fighting? Former President Ronald Reagan once said, "Imagine how quickly we would unite as human beings if the threat came from somewhere beyond this world." He's right. Human beings would become instant brothers if the entire planet Earth was at peril. Think about that as we proceed. Today we'll discuss a few concepts. They're derived from 3 powerful human consciousness books: The Power of Now, The Alchemist, and The Four Agreements. First, using the logic from The Power of Now, we'll explore why the past for these 2 Middle East rivals is irrelevant. Second, we reference the book The Alchemist and how a monolithic God by which both parties agree is true is, of course, on both sides of this war. And finally, we'll apply the logic of the book, The Four Agreements, to this predicament in the Middle East, in that they are nothing but an extended family fighting over the inaccurate use of words. So let's get rolling. First, we start with the power of now. Part of understanding human consciousness is to understand the space-time continuum. This concept concludes that space and time are invariably intertwined, and that means we have a past, a present, and a future as our conscious souls navigate this endeavor we call human life on planet Earth. It also concludes that the only part that's real is the present, or what's called the now. The rest, the past, the future, are nothing but a figment of our imagination or something that's not real. Think about it. Of course, your future doesn't exist yet, but surprisingly, neither does your past. That's right, your past, or the entire world's past for that matter, does not exist. It's nothing but the figment of an individual human being's imagination. What if the human brain couldn't remember anything past this morning? How does the past exist? Of course not. It's all in our mind, and our memory of it is simply not accurate. So, to fight over the past seems ridiculous. Well, that's about 3 minutes and the end of part 1. Please stay tuned for part 2. Part 2. Now, even though the past doesn't exist, let's explore the past or use our imagination to recall this conflict between the Israeli and Palestinian people. It starts way back centuries ago with 2 conflicting books filled with words, the Bible and the Quran. What are books? Books are nothing but words compiled for human interpretation. That's right. The logic put forth by the profound work of Don Miguel Ruiz in his book, The Four Agreements, concludes that our individual human perceptions of reality are comprised by our own interpretation of words, or letters, or symbols, and nothing more. In the Four Agreements, it's called the impeccability of the word. Our perceived human realities, i.e., what we believe is true, are a product of the words we've chosen or been forced to believe. From the moment we are born as human beings, we are indoctrinated with a set of words that creates our beliefs. Indoctrination means we're told what to believe rather than think for ourselves. So the Israelis have been indoctrinated with the arguably inaccurate interpretation of the words of the Bible, and the Palestinians have been indoctrinated with a similar misinterpretation of the words of the Quran. That's the only difference. Same planet, same words, different arguably inaccurate interpretations of those words. So is it not ridiculous that human beings on planet Earth would war for centuries because they've simply believed the words in the wrong book? One would certainly think so. Let's consider some of these ancient words that have led us to today's conflict in the Middle East. We start with the words of the Bible as it was written centuries before the Quran. It starts with Adam and Eve. Adam takes Eve into the Garden of Eden, and we end up with two sons, Cain and Abel. Turns out Cain kills Abel, and that's not because he was gay. So, from the world's first dysfunctional family, we get the lineage to the rest of humanity, right? Not so fast. Enter Seth. Seems Cain and Abel had a brother named Seth. Here's what Wikipedia had to say about Seth. Seth, in the Abrahamic religions, was the third son of Adam and Eve. Now, Abrahamic religion means those religions that descended from the biblical character Abraham. More on that in a moment. Back to Seth. According to the Hebrew Bible, he had two brothers, Cain and Abel. What's important from this point is that the rest of humanity, including all the big players like Moses, Abraham, Jesus, and Muhammad, all came from this guy, Seth. Ever heard of this guy, Seth? Seems the main dude at the genesis of humanity might be more popular. Now, why is this important? This is where we go back to the Abrahamic religions. Those at war with each other, killing innocent women and children, are both descendants of the same dude, Abraham. They've all got the same genes. Abraham was Jewish and he had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. And you guessed it, Isaac's descendants became the characters of Christianity, the Second Testament in the Bible, and Ishmael's descendants became the characters of Islam and the Quran. So we end up with two different books, two different sets of words, and thus we create two neighboring sets of reality in the same world. Well, that's the genesis of this mess. From here, the plot thickens. Then the Prophet Muhammad dies, and he was the author of the Quran. So we have dissension in our ranks. Here's the problem explained on History.com. Though the two main sects within Islam, the Sunni and the Shia, agree on most of the fundamental beliefs and practices of Islam, a bitter split between the two goes back some 14 centuries. The divide originated with a dispute over who should succeed the Prophet Muhammad as leader of the Islamic faith he introduced. So again, dissension in the ranks. This brings us to today, October 24th, 2023, and the wisdom of the book, The Alchemist. All human wars, including this one, are never on behalf of the Creator. The Creator, or God, or Allah, is of love and nothing else. So God or Allah is not on your side. Wars between human beings on planet Earth are all a battle between freedom and control. Period. Many human beings are selfish and seek control, then they end up battling with the human beings that are humble and seek freedom. It's a common theme that can be applied to any war, but that's for another podcast. We'll call that one the battle for the money. So, what would our father Abraham say to his warring Islamic and Jewish sons? Here's what I surmise. Number one, the past is irrelevant. The present is now. And the future needs no fighting over the perceived past mistakes of your ancestors. You were all born into this world as brothers and sisters because you shared the same DNA. Read the power of now. Second, both the Bible and the Quran are wrong in some regard. That's common sense. But what needs to become common sense is that most certainly the interpretation of those words by human beings is wrong, especially as they pertain to someone else's journey on this planet. Don't interpret words to apply to my life. Apply them only to your own life. You're not qualified to interpret them. You want proof? Read the four agreements. Finally, you both believe in a common sense monolithic creator, so God and Allah are one and the same. Stop suggesting that's not the case and read The Alchemist. I know that sounds a bit condescending, but I think the human lives of innocent women and children are worth it. So, what's the solution? We've addressed the problem, but what's the solution? That's simple. Think of it this way. As I look out my window at my closest neighbors, I see no need to care if they're Jewish, Islamic, Christian, Democrat, Republican, gay, straight. I just don't care. I welcome that they see the world differently than I do. That's by design. We're not robots. Why would I care if your perception of this world is different than mine? I don't. Why would you care if my perception is different than yours? You shouldn't. Why don't Wisconsin and Minnesota fight over our differences like the Israelis and the Palestinians? It's because both states are filled with all beliefs and we simply don't give a shit what the other one thinks. You get that? Why is the border battle between Minnesota and Wisconsin not a bloodbath? It's because we live together as one, regardless of our religious or political beliefs, and that's what needs to happen in the Middle East. They need to live as one. It's tough to bomb your neighbor when you just went out dancing with them the night before, right? Will it take the Great Awakening to stop this fight? I think so, but we'll explore that soon. That's it for now. Please share this podcast with someone who needs it and consider contributing to our cause. Be sure to check out the next episode. Each one is better than the last, and thanks for listening.